her waitress uniform, apron tied tight, hair messy from a long shift. She stepped into the parking lot behind the bar and pulled her hoodie on when she heard it. Footsteps, not one pair. 3. A voice behind her laughed. "Yo! Rookie!" Olivia kept walking, faster. Then someone grabbed the back of her apron and yanked her so hard she stumbled. "Don't act shy now, we're—" Another one circled in front of her, blocking the alley exit. A phone came up. Recording. "Smile," he said. "This is gonna be funny." Olivia's throat tightened. She tried to breathe. "Please, just let me go." The biker leaned close, grinning. "Nah, you're gonna do what we say." He tugged the apron knot, and Olivia's eyes flicked down for half a second, like she was calculating something. Then the far end of the alley went quiet. Too quiet. A shadow stepped forward. A man in a dark jacket. Still. Watching. And beside him, a canine's ears snapped up. The dog went stiff, then let out a violent throat-ripping bark and launched straight toward them. Before we jump in, comment where you're watching from and hit subscribe, because this one has one of the most chilling canine moments we've ever told. Olivia stepped out the back door of the bar with her shoulders slightly hunched, like she was trying to take up less space in the world. The neon sign behind her buzzed and flickered, throwing weak pink light across her blonde hair and the same waitress uniform she'd worn all night. Black skirt, white shirt, apron tied tight at the waist. Her shift had been brutal. Drunk customers, cheap tips, men who stared too long. She didn't complain. She never did. She just wiped tables, smiled politely, and counted the minutes until she could go home. The alley behind the bar was quiet, damp, and narrow, and Olivia walked through it like she'd walked through 1,000 places like it before. Halfway down the alley, she felt it. That sensation you can't explain unless you've lived it. Being watched. She slowed, just a fraction. Not enough to look suspicious. Not enough to show fear. Her fingers tightened around the strap of her purse, and her eyes shifted to the reflection in a puddle near the dumpster. 3 shadows. Moving. Closing in. Olivia's stomach dropped, but her body didn't panic. Her breathing stayed steady. She didn't turn around. She just kept walking, like she hadn't noticed the danger stacking up behind her. "Hey, waitress!" A voice dragged her title out like it was something dirty. "Where you running off to so fast?" Olivia kept walking. Another step. Then another. The alley was too long, too boxed in. No easy exits. The second voice laughed, low and mean. "Don't ignore us, sweetheart. We just want to talk." Olivia's heart thumped once, hard. She finally turned her head slightly, enough to see them. 3 men. Tattooed arms. Heavy boots. Faces half lit by the street lamp at the far end. They didn't look drunk. They looked entertained, like they'd been waiting for this part all night. Olivia tried to step around them, but the biggest one slid sideways and blocked her path. He smelled like cigarettes and oil. His grin was wide, and his eyes were dead. "Aw, look at her," he said to his friends. "All alone in the dark." One of the others pulled out his phone immediately, screen glowing. Recording. Olivia's throat tightened. She hated that. The filming. The power. The way people thought they could turn her into a joke and keep it forever. "Please," she said quietly, voice soft, almost breaking. "I'm just trying to go home." The biggest biker leaned closer. "Then don't scream, where—" The word hit like a slap. Olivia flinched, just once, and the biker noticed. He laughed louder. "There it is. That's the face. That scared little face." He reached out and hooked 2 fingers under her apron strap. "What's under this, huh?" Olivia grabbed his wrist instinctively. Fast. Too fast. For a second, the biker's smile faltered. He felt it. The strength. The control. Like her hands knew exactly where to lock. Olivia immediately loosened her grip and stepped back, as if she hadn't just revealed something dangerous. "Don't touch me," she whispered. The biker blinked, then smirked again. "Oh, so you got claws." Behind them, something shifted in the darkness near the far end of the alley. A faint scrape. A quiet movement. Olivia's eyes flicked past the bikers for half a second. There was someone sitting on a low concrete ledge near the streetlight. A man. Broad shoulders. Dark jacket. Still as stone. At his feet, barely visible, a large dog lay in a perfect down position, silent, watching. Olivia hadn't even noticed him at first, and the bikers definitely hadn't. They were too busy enjoying their little show. "You like this, don't you?" The biker with the phone taunted, circling. "You like being watched." Olivia's jaw clenched. She didn't answer. She just swallowed, eyes glassy, and kept her hands at her sides, like she was forcing herself to stay small. The biggest biker grabbed her again, this time harder. He yanked her apron, pulling her forward until her shoulder hit the brick wall. Olivia gasped, not loud, just enough to show pain. The biker leaned in, his breath hot. "Say sorry," he murmured. "Say you're sorry for ignoring me." Olivia's eyes squeezed shut for 1 second. Then she opened them, and there was something in them that didn't match her trembling voice. Something colder, something trained. "Please," she said again, softer. "Don't." The biker laughed. "That's not a no." His hand rose toward her collar, and that's when the man at the end of the alley finally moved. Not fast, not dramatic, just stood up. The bikers didn't notice at first. The phone was still recording. The biggest one was still leaning in. But the dog noticed instantly. The canine's head lifted. Ears snapped forward. Its body went rigid, like a switch had been flipped. The biker with the phone finally glanced over his shoulder and snorted. "What the hell is that?" The biggest biker didn't even turn. He just kept smiling at Olivia like he owned her. "Relax," he said. "It's just some guy and his mutt." The man took one slow step forward, then another. Still no shouting, no threats, no hero speech. Just the quiet weight of someone who didn't need permission to end a problem. The canine rose beside him, muscles tight, tail stiff, eyes locked on the biker's hand at Olivia's collar. Olivia saw the dog now, fully. A working dog, not a pet, a weapon with a heartbeat. The biggest biker finally turned his head and scoffed. "You gonna sick your dog on me, tough guy?" He sneered. "Go ahead. Let's see what he does." The man didn't answer. He just said one word, low, calm, deadly. "Enough!" And in that exact second, the canine exploded into a violent feral bark and launched straight toward the biker's throat. The biker barely had time to blink before the canine was on him. Not biting yet, because the handler hadn't given that command, but close enough that the man's whole soul left his body. The dog hit the end of the leash with a brutal snap, barking so hard it echoed off the brick like gunshots. The biker stumbled backward, hands flying up, phone dropping and skidding across the wet pavement. His buddies froze in that stupid half-laugh, half-panic face men get when they realize they picked the wrong person to mess with. The Navy SEAL didn't rush. That was the scariest part. He walked forward like he owned the alley, like he'd been here 1,000 times, like violence was just another tool in his pocket. He stopped between Olivia and the bikers, just enough to block their line of sight to her. The canine kept barking, deep, aggressive, controlled. The SEAL's voice was low. "Back up, now!" The biggest biker tried to save face. He spat to the side and forced a grin. "Man, you're really gonna risk your dog for some little waitress?" The SEAL didn't even look at him. He glanced back at Olivia instead, and Olivia, still pressed to the wall, still in that waitress uniform, did something that made the SEAL's eyes narrow. She didn't look scared anymore. She looked annoyed. The biker with the phone scrambled to grab it, and as he did, he laughed nervously. "This is crazy. You seeing this? This dude's threatening us." His friend added, Yeah, call the cops. We didn't do nothing." The biggest one stepped forward again, like he still couldn't help himself. He reached out, not at Olivia this time, but toward the dog. "Nice mutt. Bet I can." The canine snapped its jaws in the air, inches from his fingers, and the biker jerked back so fast he almost fell. The SEAL finally looked at him, and his eyes were flat. "You touch him," the SEAL said, "and you'll be missing a hand." The alley went quiet in the weirdest way. Even the bar noise behind them felt far away now. The bikers had come in loud, cocky, hungry for power. But now they were doing that thing where their bodies still try to act tough while their eyes scream fear. The biggest biker forced another laugh. "Bro, who even are you? You some kind of cop?" The SEAL didn't answer. He reached into his jacket slowly, and all three bikers flinched like he was about to pull a gun. He didn't. He pulled out a simple leather leash handle and tightened his grip on it like a warning. Then Olivia spoke from behind him. "Please," she said softly. "Don't hurt them." The bikers heard that and immediately got brave again. The biggest one smirked. "Aw, look at that. Your little girlfriend's begging for us." Olivia's eyes flashed. The SEAL tilted his head slightly, like he was listening to a sound nobody else could hear. The K9 stopped barking for half a second, not because it calmed down, because it was waiting. The SEAL turned his head toward Olivia again and finally saw her clearly. The bruising starting on her shoulder where she'd hit the wall. The way she held her hands. Loose. Ready. The way her feet were placed. Not like a scared waitress. Like someone trained to fight in tight spaces. Like someone who knew how to break a man without leaving a mark. And then the SEAL noticed the tiniest detail. A faint scar line near Olivia's collarbone. Half hidden under her uniform. Old. Clean. Surgical. The kind you only got from shrapnel removal or a combat injury. His face changed. Not shock. Not anger. Recognition. The biggest biker didn't notice any of it. He stepped in again, closer, louder, desperate to regain control. "You hear me, War?" he snapped at Olivia. "I said don't scream. You want to make this easy or hard?" He reached for her wrist, and Olivia moved, fast. She didn't swing. She didn't kick. She didn't do anything dramatic. She simply rotated her wrist, stepped inside his reach, and locked his arm in a tight hold so clean and sharp the biker's knees buckled instantly. A sound came out of him, half grunt, half squeal. The other two bikers froze like their brains couldn't process what they'd just seen. Olivia leaned in close to his ear, still holding him, still calm. "You're going to let go," she whispered, "or I'm going to break it." The biker's eyes went wide. The SEAL's eyes went even wider. Because Olivia's voice wasn't scared anymore. It had that tone, that military tone. The one you only hear from someone who has given orders in life or death moments. The SEAL took one step closer, staring at her like he was seeing a ghost. "Wait," he said quietly. Olivia released the biker and stepped back, instantly shrinking herself again, like she remembered she wasn't supposed to be this person anymore. The biker clutched his arm, stumbling away, cursing. What the hell are you?" he yelled. Olivia didn't answer. She just lowered her eyes like a rookie waitress again. But it was too late. The SEAL was staring at her face now, at her posture, at the way she moved, at the way the K9 had shifted its body the moment she spoke, like it respected her. And then the SEAL's voice dropped to a whisper. "Commander Olivia Hayes?" The alley went dead silent, and the biggest biker, still holding his arm, turned slowly. "What did you just call her?" Olivia didn't answer him, not because she couldn't, because the second those words left the SEAL's mouth, "Commander Olivia Hayes," she felt her whole life crack open again. The alley was still. Even the bar noise behind them felt like it got muted. The bikers just stared, confused and angry at the same time. The biggest one rubbed his wrist like he couldn't believe a waitress had folded him like paper. "Commander," he scoffed. "What is this, some cosplay crap?" His buddy laughed too loud, trying to bring the power back. "Yeah, what, you some kind of fake soldier we're now?" But the laugh died fast, because the SEAL didn't laugh. He stepped forward and the K9 stepped with him. Not wild now, not barking, just locked in, focused. The SEAL's eyes never left Olivia's face. "Ma'am," he said, and the word sounded insane in that alley. "Tell me it's not you." Olivia swallowed. Her throat felt tight. She stared at the ground for half a second, like she could hide in it. Then she looked up and said very softly, "You're mistaken." The SEAL's jaw flexed. "No, I'm not." And then he did something that made Olivia's stomach drop. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a coin. Not a flashy one, a worn one, a challenge coin. He held it between his fingers and turned it so the moonlight hit the engraving. Olivia's breath caught, because she knew that coin. She had seen it in blood, in dust, in the dark. The biggest biker stepped forward again, still trying to act tough, but now it was shaky. "Hey, what are you two whispering about?" he snapped. "You think you're scaring us?" The seal didn't even look at him. He just raised 2 fingers slightly. The canine's head snapped toward the biker like a laser. The biker froze mid-step, and for the first time, Olivia saw it. The biker wasn't brave. He was desperate. He was the kind of man who only acted big when he thought nobody could stop him. The seal finally spoke to them, voice calm and deadly. "Walk away." The biker laughed again, but it sounded broken now. "Or what? Your dog gonna—" The seal cut him off. "Walk." The biker's eyes flicked to Olivia, then to the dog, then to the seal, then back to Olivia again, like something wasn't adding up. And then the smallest biker, the one who'd been recording, whispered, "Bro, I think we should go." The biggest biker snapped his head. "Shut up." He turned back to Olivia with that ugly grin. "Nah, not yet." And he reached into his jacket. Olivia's whole body went cold. The seal saw it too. So did the canine. And the second the biker's hand came out, it wasn't a gun, it was a knife. Short blade, cheap handle, but sharp enough. He held it up like a trophy. "You thought you were tough, huh?" he hissed at Olivia. "You think that little wrist twist makes you a hero?" Olivia didn't move. Her face stayed calm, but her eyes changed. The seal saw it. That switch. That 1,000-yard stare that didn't look away from steel. And he realized something that made his voice go even quieter. Olivia wasn't afraid of the knife. She was remembering knives. The biker took 1 step closer, knife out. The seal tightened his grip on the leash, ready to give 1 word and end it. But Olivia suddenly lifted 1 hand, palm out, toward the seal. A signal. Not dramatic, just controlled. The seal froze because he understood what that signal meant. Hold. The canine held too, muscles shaking but obedient. Olivia stepped forward herself. Slowly, like she was stepping into a ring. The biker smirked. "Oh, so you want to be brave now?" Olivia didn't answer. She got close enough that the knife was inches from her. Close enough that 1 wrong move would open her skin. Close enough that any normal woman would be shaking. But Olivia's hands were steady. Her breathing was steady. And then she spoke, voice low, almost gentle. "You're not going to use that," she said. The biker laughed. "Want to bet?" Olivia's eyes flicked to his wrist, his stance, his shoulders, the way his weight was too far forward. Then she looked back into his face, and in 1 clean motion, she moved. Not fast like a brawl, fast like training. She stepped inside his arm, hooked his wrist, turned his elbow the wrong way, and drove him into the wall so hard his knife clattered onto the pavement. The biker gasped like his lungs got punched out. Olivia didn't stop. She pinned him, twisted his arm, and whispered in his ear, calm as ice. "I told you," she said. "You weren't going to use it." The other 2 bikers panicked and rushed forward. That was their mistake. The canine launched. One of them screamed as the dog slammed into his chest, knocking him flat. The seal grabbed the second one by the collar and threw him into the brick like he weighed nothing. The alley turned into pure chaos, boots scraping, bodies hitting walls, breathless yelling. But Olivia looked like she wasn't even trying, like she'd done this 100 times, like this wasn't the first time men cornered her in the dark. It was just the first time she'd decided she was done playing small. The biggest biker, still pinned, groaned, "What? What the hell are you?" Olivia leaned in, her blonde hair falling forward, her face inches from his, and for the first time, her voice carried that command tone again. "I'm the reason your friends are still breathing," she said. Then she let him go and stepped back. The bikers scrambled, dragging each other, limping, cursing. The one who'd been recording snatched his phone and pointed it at Olivia with shaking hands. "This is going viral," he muttered. This is going to be everywhere. Olivia's heart slammed in her chest, because that was the one thing she couldn't allow. Her identity had been erased for a reason, and if her face went online, it wasn't just her life at risk. It was the Pentagon. The SEAL stepped toward the biker holding the phone. "Delete it!" The biker backed up, eyes wild. "No, you can't tell me." The SEAL's voice dropped. "Delete it." The biker hesitated, and Olivia realized something terrifying. The bikers weren't the real danger anymore. The phone was. Because if that video hit the internet, someone would recognize her. Someone who wasn't supposed to know she was alive. Olivia stepped forward, her voice calm but urgent. "Give me the phone," she said. The biker swallowed hard, and then he smirked. "Nah," he said. "I think I'm gonna sell this." Olivia felt her blood run cold, because she knew exactly who would pay for it. And behind her the SEAL whispered something that made her turn her head slowly. He wasn't looking at the bikers anymore. He was looking past them, down the mouth of the alley, at a black SUV that had just rolled up silently. And the SEAL's face went tight as he said, "Olivia, we've got company." The black SUV didn't roll in like a normal car. It rolled in like it already owned the alley. No headlights, no music, no shouting, just that slow, quiet crawl, like a predator sliding closer because it already knows you can't run. The bikers noticed it too. The one with the phone stopped smirking. His face went pale. "Oh, shht," he whispered. The biggest biker, still half bent from Olivia's hold, stared at the SUV like he'd seen a ghost. And that's when Olivia knew the truth. These weren't just drunk idiots. They were connected. The SEAL's K9 went rigid again, not barking, not lunging, just locked. His ears snapped forward. His nose worked the air like it had just caught something rotten. The SEAL tightened his grip on the leash and said, low and fast, "Olivia, behind me." Olivia didn't move. She stared at the SUV, heart pounding, and for a second she hated herself for thinking the same thing she always thought. "I should have stayed invisible." The driver door opened. A man stepped out in a dark jacket, clean boots, no biker look at all. Mid-30s. Calm face. The kind of calm that isn't peaceful. It's trained. He looked at the bikers first, like they were trash. Then he looked at Olivia, and he smiled, just a little. "There you are," he said, like he'd been searching for a lost wallet. The SEAL took one step forward. "Back up." The man ignored him and nodded at the phone in the biker's hand. "Hand it over," he said. The biker hesitated, then quickly offered it like a kid giving candy to a bully. The man took it, tapped the screen, watched the footage for 2 seconds, and his eyes lit up, because he recognized the move. Not the waitress, not the crying, not the uniform, the move. Olivia's stomach dropped. She knew that look. She'd seen it in Afghanistan. Men who didn't care about who you were, only what you could do. The man slipped the phone into his pocket. "Good," he said. "This will do." Then he looked at Olivia again. "Commander Hayes," he said casually, like it was a joke. Olivia's jaw tightened. The SEAL's face changed instantly. His voice went sharp. "Who the hell are you?" The man finally looked at him. "I'm nobody you need to worry about," he said, "unless you make yourself a problem." Then he pointed at Olivia. "She's coming with me." Olivia's blood turned to ice. The SEAL's hand moved to his waistband. Not dramatic, just ready. And the K9. The K9 started to growl. Not loud, not crazy. A deep, vibrating warning that made every biker take a step back. The man raised both hands slightly. "Relax," he said. "No one wants a mess in a public alley." Olivia almost laughed at the word public. Like this wasn't a trap. Like this wasn't a pickup. Like this wasn't a retrieval. Then Olivia heard it. A second vehicle. Another SUV. And another. The alley mouth started filling with black. Olivia didn't flinch. She just exhaled once. The SEAL glanced at her, and in his eyes she saw something that hit her harder than fear. Respect. He wasn't looking at a waitress anymore. He was looking at a survivor. Olivia's voice came out quiet. "They found me," she said. The SEAL didn't ask questions. He didn't lecture. He didn't panic. He just nodded once, like a man receiving a mission. "Then we move," he said. And in that moment, the alley became a battlefield. The man in the jacket snapped his fingers. 2 more guys stepped out, hands in their pockets, walking slow. Olivia saw the outline of a pistol under one jacket. The SEAL saw it too. The K9 smelled it. The dog's growl turned into a violent bark that echoed off brick walls. The bikers backed away like rats, suddenly realizing they weren't part of the plan anymore. They were just bait. The man pointed again. "Last chance," he said. "Give her to me." The SEAL's voice dropped. "Not happening." The man sighed like he was disappointed. Then he nodded at his guys, and the first shot fired. It didn't hit anyone. It hit the wall beside the SEAL's head, sending brick dust into the air. That was the moment everything broke loose. The K9 launched like a missile. He slammed into the closest gunman so hard the guy hit the ground like a sack. The SEAL rushed the second man and drove him into the SUV door, wrenching the weapon away with a brutal, clean motion. Olivia moved too, fast, silent, deadly. She grabbed the biggest biker who still stood there frozen and yanked him in front of her like a shield. "On your knees," she hissed. He dropped instantly, terrified. And that's when Olivia saw something she didn't expect. The man in the jacket wasn't shocked. He was pleased. Like this was the confirmation he wanted. He stepped back, lifted his phone, and filmed her. "Perfect," he murmured. "The ghost is real." Olivia felt a cold wave wash through her body. Ghost. That's what they used to call her in the unit. The one who survived. The one who finished the mission when everyone else died. The one the government erased to keep alive. And now someone had her on camera saying the word. The SEAL turned, yelling, "Olivia!" But she was already moving. She sprinted straight at the man, not to hurt him, to take the phone. The man smiled and tossed it to someone behind her. Olivia spun too late. A third gunman caught it and ran, and Olivia chased, right out of the alley, right into the open street, where the last SUV door swung open, and a man stepped out wearing a suit, not biker, not thug, a suit. He held up a badge that made Olivia's stomach drop. Not police, not FBI, something deeper, something black, something classified, and he said one sentence that made Olivia's blood turn to ice. "Commander Hayes, you were never supposed to be found." Olivia stopped dead. The SEAL and the K9 caught up behind her, both ready to fight. But the man in the suit didn't raise a weapon. He raised a folder, and he opened it. Inside were photos, her team, her mission, her dead brothers, and one photo she had never seen before, a photo of her standing over a target in Afghanistan, taken from an angle she didn't recognize, meaning someone had been watching her even back then. The man in the suit looked at her and said softly, almost respectfully, "Your cover is burned." Olivia's hands curled into fists. Her voice came out like steel. "Who are you?" The man didn't answer. He just looked at the SEAL and said, "Get her in the vehicle." The SEAL's jaw clenched. Like hell. The man's eyes narrowed. Then he said something that made the SEAL freeze, something only a real insider would know, something that proved he wasn't bluffing. And Olivia realized the worst part. This wasn't an abduction. This was a recall, a leash snapping tight. And Olivia, after years of hiding, was being pulled back into the world that had destroyed her. The SEAL's K9 barked again, furious, ready to die if needed. Olivia looked down at the dog, then up at the SEAL, and she made a choice, not to run, not to beg, not to hide. She stepped forward, lifted her chin, and said, "Fine." Then she leaned close to the SEAL and whispered one thing. "If I don't come back, don't let them erase me again." The SEAL's eyes burned. He nodded once, and the man in the suit smiled like he'd won, because he thought she was surrendering. He didn't understand what Olivia was really doing. She wasn't surrendering. She was walking back into the fire, on her terms. And as the SUV door opened and Olivia stepped toward it, the K9 let out one last violent bark. Not at the men, but at the future, because it knew. This wasn't over. This was the beginning. And if you felt even a little bit of what Olivia carried in this story, if you felt that pain, that courage, that quiet strength, then please, don't just watch and scroll away. Subscribe. Because stories like this aren't just entertainment, they're reminders that some heroes don't wear medals, some heroes wear aprons, and some heroes survive things they way.